Hello, and thank you for participating in the Healthy Tots Wellness Grant, Division of Health and Wellness pre-application information session. The purpose of the webinar today and the webinar recording is to go through all portions of the Healthy Tots Wellness Grant application, the request for applications. We will be providing details and expanding where needed. Because this is a webinar recording, we will not be taking a break, but during the second half of the agenda, we'll actually be logging into the Enterprise Grant Management System, or EGMS, and practice filling out an application. Because this is a webinar recording, questions will not be answered in real time. Any questions you might have or comments, there's some contact information that will be presented towards the end of the PowerPoint where you can reach out and contact us with any questions or concerns. The purpose of the Healthy Tots Wellness Grant is to support the dissemination of healthy eating, physical activity, and wellness programming in the District of Columbia early care community. The Healthy Tots Act of 2014 builds on the success of the DC Healthy Schools Act by extending many of its key nutrition, physical activity, and wellness provisions to child development facilities, helping level the playing field between the community and school-based providers. The Healthy Tots Act, or HTA, also aims to reduce obesity and improve the health, wellness, and nutritional status of more than 6,000 children enrolled in community-based child care centers and family daycare homes in the District of Columbia. And it does this through healthy meals, physical activity, and nutrition education. In addition to providing reimbursements for facilities to serve more nutritious meals, the HTA requires OSSE to make competitive grants available to support child care facilities in the dissemination of healthy eating, physical activity, and wellness education initiatives. OSSE contends that by successfully implementing wellness programming at the over 150 child care facilities participating in the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP, child care facilities are able to provide an early childhood environment that supports good nutrition, health, and physical activity. For a link that can provide more resources and information on the Healthy Tots Wellness Grant and the Healthy Tots Wellness Grant application, please click on the blue hyperlink below. So one of the first questions you might be asking is, who's eligible to apply? OSSE is awarding funding to organizations that can provide technical assistance and help implement wellness programming at targeted community-based child care facilities in the District of Columbia. The selected applicants will be required to build capacity and build sustainable partnerships within the early learning community. Applicants will be awarded funding to implement programming in these 6 areas: gardening and environmental sustainability, farm-to-child care and local food procurement, nutrition education, physical activity and education, staff wellness and center wellness policy, and lastly, family-style dining. OSSE will prioritize awarding grants to community-based organizations, or CBOs, that provide services to child care facilities that operate in wards 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, and also participate in the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP. Targeted facilities need to be currently licensed by OSSE and as well accept child care subsidy as payments for at least 25% of existing infant and or toddler slots. As part of the application, applicants will be required to demonstrate a partnership with at least 5 child care development facilities by having them fill out an interest in services form and tracking this information on the program site locations and participants log. Family daycare homes are also eligible to participate in the grant, but can only apply under the fiscal sponsorship of a CBO or approved family daycare sponsor. To access the interest in services form and the program site locations and participant logs, Click on the blue hyperlinks below. So you might be asking, what exactly is a CBO, or a community-based organization? So for the purposes of this grant, there are two definitions. According to the U.S. Department of Education, the term community-based organization means a public or private nonprofit organization of demonstrated effectiveness that A, is representative of a community or significant segments of a community, and B, provides educational or related services to individuals in the community. Another definition that's provided by the Code of the District of Columbia is that CBO means a Head Start or early childhood education program operated by a nonprofit entity, faith-based organization, or other entity that participates in a federally funded early childhood program. The Healthy Tots Wellness Grant aims to target facilities to implement wellness programming. How do we define a targeted facility? A target facility identifies as a community-based childcare center or family daycare home. They operate in the district's most underserved wards. They participate in the CACFP program. They're licensed by OSSE. They serve children between the ages of birth and age 5, and they accept child care subsidy as payment for at least 25% of existing infant and toddler slots. OSSE has actually put together a running list of eligible centers that meet this criteria. For a list of eligible centers and their contact information, visit the blue hyperlink below that directs you to the OSSE website. Fiscal sponsor. A fiscal sponsor may be either the applicant or designated lead organization if an application includes several organizations. If the grant is to be remunerated directly to the lead organization, that organization is then designated as the fiscal sponsor as part of the application. So how many applications can an organization submit? OSSE will accept one application per organization. However, a lead organization may partner with other organizations that can provide services in another program area to expand reach. Partner organizations can only appear on one application. Applicants must designate one fiscal sponsor to oversee administration and the reporting of funds. Applicants may not designate more than one fiscal sponsor. So just to clarify, organizations can only appear on one application, either as a lead organization or as a partner organization. In addition, partner organizations differ from partnering child care facility sites in that partnering organizations are going to assist the lead organization in implementing wellness programming, while child care facilities are going to be receiving this programming and these services. The total amount available for this award is $500,000 per fiscal year. The grant covers a 2-year fiscal period. Each awarded organization can apply for up to $100,000 for each fiscal year in the grant period. This means applicants can ask for up to $200,000 during the 2-year grant cycle. Applicants must use allocated funding outlined in their budget timeline during the designated budget year. Funding cannot be rolled over to the next year in the grant period, and funding that's not spent during that fiscal year will lapse. Finally, OSSE anticipates awarding funds to no more than 6 applicants. So once you get this funding, how can funding be utilized? So essentially, funding must be utilized to implement wellness programming at child care facilities. Funds can also be used for the following activities if they support the activities described in the request for applications, as well as outlined in the applicant submission. Funding can cover stipends for replacement staff time during trainings and professional development, and to supplement time covered outside of normal working hours. Funds can also be used for materials and supplies to implement a wellness initiative, They can fund professional services such as nutrition educators and yoga instructors for staff, parents, and children. Food can also be covered by funding, as long as the food is for demonstration and educational purposes, or they're snacks for parents, children, or community members at grant-related trainings, or a community event, such as a family fitness night, training for teachers, or a school garden training. Any other type of food purchase requires prior authorization from OSSE. If you choose to purchase food with funding, no more than 10% of the project budget can be used for purchasing food. All snacks and foods purchased with Healthy Tots Wellness Grant funds must meet the requirements of the CACFP meal pattern guidelines. For more information, visit the blue hyperlink outlined here. If a meal is to be provided to children, it must consist of healthy foods, such as fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grain-rich products, lean sources of protein, non-fried foods, and no desserts such as candy, cakes, pies, and buns. Grantees should also strive to purchase local and seasonal produce when available. Some things funding may not be used for are travel expenses, such as hotels, airline tickets, and per diem, and equipment or other valuable electronics that are not part of the program. The question we get often is, can funding be used for travel expenses or equipment or other valuable electronics that are part of the wellness programming? In some instances, yes. So if you need a phone or computer in order to operate the wellness programming, funding may be used to cover that. Next, we'll be talking about the application submission and checklist. All applications are required to be submitted through the Enterprise Grant Management System, or EGMS. Emailed or fax applications will not be accepted. Applicants will then have to reapply to OSSE for the second fiscal year of the grant period, depending on the availability of funds and the grantee's demonstrated performance. OSSE will notify applicants if the application is not selected for funding. Applications must be received no later than 3 p.m. on January 17, 2018. Late submissions will not be accepted, and extensions will not be granted. What do you need to submit an application? Applications must meet the following requirements to be eligible for review. In order to submit an application via EGMS, you must have login credentials, which include access to a DUNS number, a SAM expiration date, and central data information. If you're not sure what any of these things mean, don't worry. There'll be resources provided towards the end of the presentation that can link you to all the definitions and where to find this info and where to find this information. I just wanted to note that getting EGMS login credentials can take a few days, up to 3 days to process. So you want to make sure that when you submit an application, you log in as early as possible to get the login credentials. Because what happens for a lot of first-time applicants is that they wait until the last day or two to submit an application, and they find out that they're unable to because they don't have EGMS login credentials. So that's something you definitely want to do earlier than later. The second requirement that you need to be eligible for application review is you need to make sure that all the components of that application are completed. You need to make sure that they've been thoroughly reviewed and signed by the appropriate stakeholders. The completed application must be submitted, including all narrative responses and uploaded documents by or before the deadline. And once it's submitted, an applicant may not amend the application. Now, let's go over the program requirements and program areas. As I mentioned earlier, applicants will be required to implement wellness programming in 6 program areas. But in general, The Healthy Tots Wellness Grant will fund organizations to help eligible childcare facilities work towards complying with at least 75% of the Healthy Tots Wellness Guidelines and the self-assessment. You can get more information on the Healthy Tots Wellness Guidelines by clicking on the blue hyperlink. In order to be considered for funding, applicants must select at least one of the 6 program areas to implement at 5 to 10 childcare facility sites. Preference will be given to applicants who address 2 or more areas. But if you have a strong proposal that only covers one area, you will also be considered. The following slides provide a framework for the program requirements and objectives of each area. The first program area is nutrition education. This program area, the grantee will be responsible for building capacity, overseeing, and reporting on the administration and implementation of structured nutrition education programming at targeted community-based childcare facilities participating in CACFP. The grantee will, at a minimum, offer a standardized, evidence-based curriculum that aligns with DC Common Core standards, early learning standards, play guidelines, and Healthy Tots Wellness Guidelines. The grantee will conduct training to early childhood education teachers on nutrition education and role modeling healthy behaviors. Grantees will provide technical assistance associated with establishing a structured nutrition education program. We'll also support targeted facilities and engaging parents and families in wellness programming. The next program area, which is physical activity and education, the grantee will be responsible for building capacity, overseeing, and reporting on the administration and implementation of a physical activity program in community-based childcare facilities that participate in CACFP. The grantee will, at a minimum, train early childhood educators on physical activity delivery and provide technical assistance associated with implementing consistent physical activity programming that includes structured teacher-led activities, and unstructured play. The grantee will also support targeted facilities in engaging parents and families in programming that help support physical activity. The third area covers farm-to-child care and local food procurement. In this capacity, the grantee will be responsible for overseeing and reporting on the development of a local food procurement and farm-to-child care program at targeted childcare facilities that participate in CACFP. The grantee will connect facilities to locally grown, locally processed, and unprocessed foods from growers engaged in sustainable agricultural practices. Grantees can also help to connect facilities with producers or distributors that take local produce and minimally process them, such as taking fresh produce and cutting it up, freezing, canning, turning into baby food, etc. Grantees will also assist facilities in serving seasonal, locally grown, and/or locally processed and unprocessed foods into their menu at least once a week. They will integrate farm-to-child care concepts into nutrition education activities and will include a parent engagement component, as well as grantees will assist in the coordination in developing a farm-to-child care field experience for teachers and/or students. The fourth area is gardening and environmental sustainability. In this program area, the grantee will be responsible for building capacity, overseeing, and reporting on the development of a gardening environmental sustainability program at targeted childcare facilities that participate in CACFP. Grantees can provide labor and materials to build gardens and integrate gardening education into existing programming. Grantees can also train staff in gardening techniques and help develop a garden sustainability plan. Finally, the grantee can assist in the application of an environmental sustainability education program, as well as develop and implement an environmental sustainability project such as a recycling program, a compost project, and/or water conservation or energy conservation program. Grantees will be required to complete the following activities under the portion of the grant, as well as the other program areas. So in all program areas, they will have to complete some sample activities, such as submitting a detailed strategy on how facilities are to be targeted, conducting trainers with the Child Care Center's wellness coordinator and wellness facilitator, implementing wellness programming, and providing technical assistance to help child care facilities acquire materials. And finally, in all program areas, applicants will be required to participate as a presenter in the post-award grant conference. For the fifth area, which is family-style dining, the grantee will be responsible for identifying and targeting facilities to provide extensive training and technical assistance to child care facilities over a 2-year grant period that are looking to successfully implement family-style dining. The grantee will also assist facilities in purchasing and distributing reusable and developmentally appropriate serving dishes, as well as serving utensils and milk carafes to utilize during mealtime. If a child care center has the equipment and capacity to wash and sanitize a large amount of dishes, the center can also purchase reusable, developmentally appropriate plates, bowls, and eating utensils. Finally, the grant will be responsible for providing support, food, and materials to facilities in order for them to host family meal nights at least quarterly, and inviting a minimum of 5 families to each meal. Meals that are served during these family meal nights must employ family-style dining, as well as include a nutrition education lesson. The last program area is building a staff wellness program and writing a center wellness policy. So for this program area, grantees will need to assist facilities in developing a facility wellness policy and staff wellness policy at targeted child care facilities. The staff wellness policy will be tailored by the results of the Center Health Behaviors Assessment and an employee interest survey. The grantee will also help implement a staff wellness program that supports good nutrition, physical activity, stress management, and the formation of healthy habits. Finally, the grantee will assist in the implementation of a wellness council with a staff wellness initiative targeting one of these following 4 areas. The staff wellness initiative will either 1, help increase water consumption and healthy beverage promotion. 2, incorporate physical activity as part of a healthy lifestyle. 3, increase knowledge in nutrition education and healthy cooking. Or 4, manage stress and optimize mental and emotional health. As I mentioned, for all of these program areas, just a reminder, a lot of them have similar activities you have to do. So, as I mentioned before, they will include submitting a detailed strategy on how facilities are to be targeted, providing training to teachers, wellness coordinators, and wellness facilitators of each center, providing technical assistance and supporting child care facilities in implementing programming, helping them acquire materials, and any other types of technical assistance at the center level. Most areas will require a parent engagement component. And finally, you will need to participate as a presenter in the post-award conference. So now that we've gone over the program requirements, let's look at how applications are reviewed. So once you submit an application, applications will be screened initially by OSSE staff to determine whether all application and eligibility requirements have been met. Only applications that meet all eligibility and application requirements will be evaluated, scored, and rated by an external review panel. Next, OSSE uses this external peer review panel to review and score the applications received for this request for applications. An external peer reviewer is defined as an expert in the field or subject matter that is being reviewed. Scoring and recommendations of the review panel are only advisory. After receiving the recommendations from the review panel and any other information considered relevant, OSSE decides which applicant to fund as well as the funding amount per applicant. So you also might be wondering, how are applications scored by the external peer review panel? Well, all applications for this RFA are objectively reviewed and scored against the following application areas and key criteria. By the program abstract, which is worth 3 points, the intended population and reach, which is worth 12 points, project vision and implementation, which is worth 25 points, collaboration and stakeholders, 20 points, the summary of qualifications, which is 10 points, performance and impact measurement, which is 20 points, and the budget narrative justification, which is worth 10 points. So all of these areas add up to 100 points. So the criteria allows the external peer reviewers and OSSE staff to determine an applicant's justification of need of grant funds, the soundness of its proposed service delivery plan, the adequacy and reasonableness of proposed resources needed, and demonstrated capability for managing the proposed program. So because this is a webinar recording, we're going to move right through the break time and go to the second half of today's agenda. So once the applications are scored, they're reviewed, and they're forwarded to OSSE, and OSSE makes a decision, what are the award and grantee expectations? So just as a reminder, OSSE reviews all applications for grant funds in accordance with DC competitive funding regulations. And we will make sure to notify all applicants of the final award decision no later than February 14th, 2018. The awarded applicants will receive a grant award notification or GAN that will include the award amount, award agreement, terms and conditions of the award, and any other supplemental information required. After applicants are notified of the award decision, grantees will be required to attend a post-award orientation that goes over all of the reporting requirements, the expectations, and the reimbursement procedures for the grant. So once you're awarded, you might wonder what the expectations are of a grant recipient. So the grant recipient's effectiveness is determined based upon the following information: responses to questions in the mid-project and final report, their responsiveness to requests and inquiries from OSSE staff, their ability to keep detailed records of funding spent, and the ability to support schools and/or childcare facilities across the district. As a reminder, all awards will be reviewed annually for compliance with programmatic and fiscal requirements. Monitoring results shall be taken into consideration in determining whether an applicant may be awarded the grant after the initial year of the grant. In the event that programmatic financial or documentation conditions of the grant are not being met in an appropriate and timely fashion, progressive actions will be taken at the discretion of OSSE, up to and including the termination of the grant and return funding to OSSE. A project that is terminated will be subject to the same requirements regarding audit, record keeping, and submission of reports as a project that runs for the duration of the project period. So now, let's practice. So this is the Enterprise Grants Management System, or EGMS. I will be using some test information to log into the system. So, as many of you know, or might not know, you will need at least 48 hours to 3 days to acquire EGMS Login Credentials if you are a new user. So for example, let's say I am a new user. So as it says, a new screen pops up and it says it takes 48 hours to complete the setup. So in order to confirm if your CBO is already registered, please enter the FAIN number of your organization and click search. So what if you're a community-based organization that doesn't have a FAIN number? What do? Well, it's actually rather simple. So you type in any type of number. So let's say this is it. And then another message will pop up. It says that the system is unable to find an organization with provided search criteria. If you would like to request a new organization be added to EGMS, click the request button. So that's what you would do. So once you click the request button, you will see that some information is required to get login credentials. So what you will do is you will fill out all of this information, and then you will upload either your W-9 or your master collections form. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to press cancel because I already have login information. So this is what the main dashboard. So this is what the main dashboard looks like for EGMS. So to access the grant, you will need to do the following. Click on GMS Access and select. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to say I'm from SELA Public Charter School. I'm going to select. And here I will look for the grant. So the Healthy Tots Act is considered a competitive grant. So we'll look in and see where I am. So because I previously tested this, I already have an original application. So let's start a new application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this one and start a brand new one. So now that it's deleted, I can start a brand new grant. So I do that by going down to competitive grants under the available grants and putting in a name. Let's say I am representing SELA PCS. So let's use that as the project title and press create. This is what the EGMS application dashboard looks like. So as you see, there are tabs, and the second row of tabs are all under the overview section. So here, as you can see, many portions of the RFA are copied into the overview portion of the application. So we have general information, award information, permissible use of funds, eligibility and application information, submission information, and program requirements. So let's click on program requirements and see what pops up. So as you see, a third row of tabs appear, and it will give you more information on the general program requirements, as well as all 6 program areas. Now, if you go under a program area, you'll see lots of blue hyperlinks that will take you to the resources and references that are required by the RFA. So for example, if you click on this blue hyperlink, it'll take you to the Healthy Tots Wellness Guidelines, or any other hyperlink you click. But let's go back to the grant. So there are 6 areas. under the program requirements. Once you get to the review process, it'll give you information on how applications are reviewed. And then let's look at the application scoring guide. So as you see with the application scoring guide, you see the description of scoring is into 5 categories. And then the application criteria and scoring, there are subheadings underneath each criteria. So you want to ensure when you enter your narrative that all of your content addresses all of the numbered points under each key criteria. So for example, under intended population and reach, which is worth 12 out of 100 points, you want to make sure that you provide a clear explanation of how the program will benefit the intended population. You want to explain how your program will be inclusive and equitable. You want to provide an outreach plan and a timeline that will ensure equal opportunity for reaching children in childcare facilities in the highest need wards of the city. And you want to provide a fair estimate on how many participants will be included and how many childcare facilities will be included in the project. The last tab is monitoring. It goes over just some of the expectations of the award. So now that you look over all the information that's required to enter it to submit an application, let's look at what the application actually looks like. So the first tab is contact information. So as you see, we need contact information that identifies the lead organization or fiscal sponsor, as well as the point of contact. You can add up to 5 additional emails to receive copies of whether or not your application was approved or not approved. But for the purpose of this demonstration, we're just going to go ahead and uncheck that. Now for this section, it will include a line where you have to put in the number of organizations that are included in this application and the name of other partnering organizations. So I just want to clarify and make sure you know that for this section, you are not entering the child care sites you will be working with. You will be entering in the partnering CBOs or communications that will assist you in implementing programming at these child care sites. So you can have 4 as the maximum. And once you press it and press enter, the contact information to enter in the organization will pop up. And you add in the names of the partner organizations here. The next tab is the narrative. So as you see, when you click on the narrative, a second line of tabs pops up. So each tab has a different key criteria in which you need to submit content. So the first one is the program abstract. The second one is the intended population and reach. So let's just do a test and let's see how we enter in information. So as you see, there's a character limit on almost every tab and every question. It is a character limit, meaning it limits the number of letters and punctuation marks and numbers. It is not the maximum word limit. So those are the differences. So let's type in here. Just going to do some random characters. So as you see, as you type in the characters, it starts counting. So let's say I filled this out and I want to move to the next tab. It says, do you want to leave the site? Changes you made may not be saved. So this is incredibly important because you need to save all of your work. And I think that's the most important thing that I can tell you about working in EGMS is that if you don't save your work, which I'll show you with a later tab, you will lose all of the content and all the time you spent answering the question. But now I saved my work and I could go on to the next one and the next one and go all the way through project narrative 7. So the last tab of the project narrative is the cost effectiveness of a budget. So I just wanted to provide a little bit more detail, is that you would need, in addition to this tab, you will need to submit a budget justification, which is included in the uploaded documents, as well as insert your detailed planning expenditures. So what does that mean? Meaning you will answer these two questions, and then under supporting documentation, it will provide a list of all the documents you need in addition to the narrative, and that includes the budget narrative justification. So all of copies of these forms, templates, resources can be found on the Healthy Tots webpage, which is here. So here you'll find a copy of an example of a budget narrative, as well as an organizational chart, a copy of the interest of service form, which need to be completed by at least 5 child care centers, a table indicating the expected total number of program participants, which is referred as the Healthy Tots Wellness Grant Program site locations and participants log. So in addition to those forms, we must include the resume and position description of the program manager and key staff members, current and valid letters of support and/or MOUs from all partnering organizations. As I mentioned, the interest in services form, an organizational chart, a table and participant log. You also need to include a copy of a curriculum, intervention, or program being implemented. And this must be submitted because it's going to be reviewed and matched to the OSSE health education standards or any other type of required standards. And just note, if you share this curriculum with us, it will not be distributed for public use. As I mentioned earlier, we also need a budget narrative and justification. If you're a nonprofit, a 501c3 determination letter, a current W-9 form, if applicable, a master's collection form, and a basic business license or charitable solicitations license. So to upload all of this information, you will just click on the Choose File. And just choose any of the relevant documents. And it will pop up and you press Upload, and it will appear here on the screen. Of course, what do you want to do? You want to save your work. So the next tab are detailed planning expenditures. So here we have a budget overview, and this is where you enter in your budget. So each tab has a different category. So for the first tab, salaries and benefits, I'm just going to show an example of how information is entered. So let's say the executive director is Sam Smith. And the program category is in administration. He gets $30 an hour, and he works a total of 1,000 hours during this project. So we will enter that in. And this pays for salary and fringe benefits. What you do next is you scroll to the bottom of the screen, you calculate your totals, and as you see, it will auto-calculate on this last column. So far, you have $30,000 in your total budget. And you want to remember to save your page after you enter in all of your detailed planning expenditures, because what happens if you don't? So let's say I completed everything here, and I go back to the second tab, which is under professional services, but then I remembered, oh, I also need to enter in the salary for this person. When you go back, you'll see, and you'll scroll down, that because you didn't save the page, it is now empty. So you want to make sure that you save your work. So let's enter it again and move on. Okay, we're going to calculate totals. And we're going to save the page this time. Now let's say Sam Smith is the executive director of a nonprofit that provides staff wellness programming to child care centers. And as part of the program, we want to hire a yoga instructor. So let's say yoga classes need to be purchased. So under this, we go under the instruction category. So this pays for 10 yoga classes for let's say 3 centers, right? Or let's just say for the purpose of this demonstration, 1 center. Say yoga instructor, let's change that. So the yoga instructor charges $60 an hour. So if you have 10 yoga classes, it's going to be a total of $600. So you want to make sure that you calculate your totals. And if you scroll to the bottom of the screen, the total budgeted has updated to include this information. So let's save the page and go on through the rest of the tabs. So for this one, we need equipment for the yoga classes. This would fall under other expenses, as yoga mats, blocks, ropes. This is going to provide 100 yoga kits, which include all of this. And each yoga kit costs about $30. So the total cost is going to be $3,000. Do you want to calculate your total? And save your page. So with supplies and materials, let's say you also want to purchase music, candles, and what else? And anything else we need for the yoga class, and snacks. So let's actually cut that and let's do materials for yoga class. So this is going to cost a total of, let's say, $1,000. I'm going to save the page. Now that we're done entering all of that in, let's look at the budget summary. So as you see, the budget is broken down by expense code, the description, and the tab. So the total budget for this project is $34,600. So when you go into the cost summary, we see that all of the numbers and the amount of funding you entered goes into the first column. So for the Healthy Tots Wellness Grant, there is no limit on how much of your budget can go towards which item, except one. For the Healthy Tots Wellness Grant, food can only make up 10% of your total projected budget. So as I mentioned, under the Supplies and Materials tab, the $1,000 covers snacks and water bottles for the participants of the yoga class. So let's say that all of that cost makes up about $500 of the $1,000 for the supplies and materials. So when you calculate your total, you will see that this $500 makes 1.45% of your total projected budget. And that's fine because it's under 10%. So you want to make sure you put your food costs in the second column. For this third column, which is follow-up activities, you don't need to fill anything out for that. So completely disregard that column. So now that we have your narrative, the contact information, and supporting documentation entered into the application, the last portion before you submit is you want to go through all of the legal conditions. So the terms and conditions are known as the assurances. So as you go through, you check each box and make sure you save your page and go through and read program assurances. At the end, you'll fill out an assurances summary. And it'll certify that you read all the information. Now let's submit our grant. Now let's submit our proposal. So before we submit, the system actually runs a consistency check, which means that it checks to make sure you filled out all of the required boxes. So as you see here, there's lots of information that was not filled out. So this means I have to go back and I have to fill out everything that's missing that's outlined here. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we're just going to move on. So once you successfully submit the application, you can look at where it is through the application history, and it'll show whether your application's been approved for funding or disapproved. In this last tab, you can actually print out a copy of your application at any time. Now just remember, once you submit an application, you cannot make any amendments to the application. If your application was approved for funding, there are some instances in which you can amend your application, but that doesn't happen very often. So now that we've practiced, here are some helpful resources that'll help you navigate the Enterprise Grants Management System, or EGMS. Each of these blue links is hyperlinked with a resource for training videos, a user manual, and a training and video guide. For first-time users, I highly recommend checking out these resources. EGMS can be a little bit cumbersome, so you want to make sure that you're thoroughly prepared before you submit an application to avoid any errors. So some things to remember. Before you submit an application, you will have to successfully have login credentials. And that could take anywhere from 2 to 3 days for the system to process. So make sure that you get the login credentials as soon as you are able to. Second thing to remember is save every page. You definitely want to save your work. While some tabs have little prompts before you move on, a lot of them don't. So you want to make sure you save every page to ensure that your work is still there. Lastly, just a little detail about the cost summary. You do have to enter in your food costs to make sure that it doesn't cost more than 10% of your proposed budget. But the third column, which is the follow-up activity column, you can completely disregard that. So just some important dates to remember. The application was released on Monday, December 4th. The pre-application information session was held on Monday, December 11th. The pre-application due date, which is when all questions must be formally submitted to be published on our website, is Monday, December 18th, 2017. The answers to these pre-application questions will be made available no later than Tuesday, January 2nd. The application deadline for submission is Wednesday, January 17th at 3 p.m. And remember, no late applications will be accepted. As far as the award period, the grant period covers 2 fiscal years, from March 1st, 2018 to September 30th, 2019. Year 1 of the grant period is from March 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2018. Year 2 of the grant period spans October 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2019. And applicants that are awarded funding must reapply for the second year of funding. So you might have some questions and comments. If you want to ask any questions to get more clarity about the grant or have any comments, please reach out to me. I'm Petrilli Hernandez, and I'm a management analyst here at OSSE. You can reach me at petrilli.hernandez@dc.gov or give me a call at 202-394-2451. Thank you so much for attending the pre-application information session webinar recording for the Healthy Tots Wellness Grant. We look forward to your questions and your comments, and I look forward to reading your submitted applications. Best of luck and have a great day.